Hello and welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me, I have a Jer.
Hello.
An Alex.
I am Wheeler.
And a Ben. A reminder that North 100 is brought to you by you with your support over at the Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Let's start off the way we always start off with the best card that you're not playing up to date. Jer, tell me a tale of magical card.
Well, I have a story, Serge.
Ooh, I love stories.
You're in a lighthouse
Okay.
on a cliff,
I can picture it.
and you see a gigantic flippin' wave coming right at you.
That sounds bad.
That's the art for Engulf the Shore, which is the best card you're not playing. 3 and a blue for an instant. Return to their owner's hands all creatures with toughness less than or equal to the number of islands you control.
This thing is an instant?
Yeah, that's really the key to this card. So it's really good in blue decks or even blue-green decks that are base blue where you're lacking colors that have removal spells, just like at all. You're not playing white, red, or black, so you just can't remove anything from the board whatsoever. And it's also good in base blue combo control decks. It's a staple in High Tide because it's very tutorable and often buys you multiple turns.
You may have a couple of islands at your discretion.
Yeah, one or two. I've also really wanted to try this deck out in turns because that's another deck where, getting a few extra turns in that deck may be good for the deck. It's called turns, so, getting turns may or may not be good.
I like the idea of thinking of this card like a time walk. Of you have reset your opponent's board.
You might call it turn the tide deck.
No. It's also really good with a lot of the utility creatures that have been printed recently. Like, this card is great with Snapcaster Mage. It sort of incentivizes you to play your Snapcaster Mage for value early, and then you can pick it up later. Same with cards like Spellseeker, Vendilion Clique. You only need one island in play to return and get additional value out of.
Right, because it's toughness, not power.
Exactly.
That's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Card's great. Play it.
Huh? All right, a little bit of housekeeping before we jump into what we do. A reminder that Magic Fest Seattle is going to be June 20th to 23rd, and you're very likely to find most of us, at least 3 out of 4 confirmed, possible 4 out of 4, as well as a whole contingent of Loading Ready Run people there. Myself, James, Adam, Ben, Cameron, and Graham are going to be there, as well as Beej. Beej is very interesting, has decided to take on as the official mascot of Canadian Highlander. He'll be there in full tartan and war paint, just shouting there can only be one. I'm really looking forward to this.
Serge, none of that is true.
Beej will be there, though, merchandising.
And I'll probably be in costume.
Just not the one that... anyway.
All right. So anyways, without much further ado, hello friends, and welcome to our Modern Horizons set review. Very excited. So a reminder for our set reviews, this is a Highlander-focused review. It's not exhaustive. We're not going to go over every single card, only the ones that we think are relevant for the format. That being said, if we go over a color and we miss a card, let us know down in the comments. We typically break the set review into 2 episodes, and we do a little insert section on episode 2 for cards that you think we may have missed. The cards are always going to be evaluated from a Highlander point of view, so if it's modern playable or legacy playable, not as relevant for us. We really want to focus on how the card will affect our format. Today's episode is going to be covering Wooburg, and we've heard your feedback. People want a slightly longer set review, so we're really going to try and take some time and dive into the cards today, and hopefully give you a little bit more discussion on each card, other than it's good.
We will also be speaking very slowly.
Am I talking too fast? A little?
No.
Yeah. So before we jump into the color white, let's talk about not necessarily the elephant in the room, but the sliver in the room. A lot of the cards in this set are slivers, and rather than talking about all of them individually, let's talk about them as a collective. As an example, we have the first sliver. For Wooburg, you get yourself a legendary sliver. It's a 7/7 for 5. It has Cascade, which is a powerful ability, and it says all sliver spells you cast have Cascade. This being the 4th Wooburg Sliver Lord. Friends, are slivers now Highlander playable?
5th.
5th?
Five?
This is the 5th. You
Oh.
got Queen,
Overload.
Hive Lord,
Yeah.
Legion, and then the Scourge one.
Was that Overlord? Maybe I'm
Overload?
Overlord.
There's Stronghold, Scourge, Time Spiral, Magic 2014, this one.
Ah, yes, their names.
No,
I get you. I get you.
Much like Slivers as a tribe, it all kind of melds and blends
I see what you did there.
together
Very
in
good.
An unplayable mess, which is a great segue to
Interesting.
this archetype in our format.
So
Well-
why? Why is it an unplayable mess? They seem powerful. They are a scourge in other formats. People are always very, very concerned about going against them. Alex.
How would you like to spend $10,000 on a tribal deck that's worse than goblins?
I mean, how you can convert that from money to mana. How would you like to spend double the mana for a tribal deck that is worse than most other tribal decks? And that's basically at least in my experience and the relayed experience from players that have attempted Slivers earnestly, the conversation always starts with a huge smile on their face at the beginning of the event, and then a big frown and an O2 drop halfway through. Because you get about 20 Slivers deep, and you're like, wow, this deck really has legs.
Spanks.
And then once you get past that, you're like, oh, well, what do I need to do here? Because you can't even supplement it with that many non-slivers. Because
Yeah, there's a lot of changelings now, right?
well, you get there's a few changelings you get, but
Not
what
that
I mean
great.
is that like for goblins, right? You can put in Eidolon of the Great Revel or Harsh Mentor, Magus of the Moon,
Price of Progress.
just burn spells even. Like there's so many cards you can add to that, or like Merfolk, you get a bunch of disruptive options, Vendilion Cliques, and you don't lose a huge amount of impact from your tribal synergies, but every non-sliver that you include in your sliver deck makes all your other slivers worse. So you just bring down everything by using slots on mana dorks, on basically anything. That's the biggest issue. And that's not even...
The mana.
There's so many more. There are so many more issues with this.
For me, the mana is one of the biggest issues, is that so many of the slivers are 2-drops that are 2 different colored pips.
Oh boy.
And so unless you draw like fetch plus rainbow land, you're just not going to be able to cast your spells.
Like you'd be
And like
playing-
as mentioned before, the upside of playing this deck isn't even that high. So is it really worth playing the 5-color tribal deck over the playable mono or 2-color tribal decks?
yeah,
Probably
I mean, like you're
not.
gonna have to play some pretty dirty rainbow lands in this deck.
Yeah, like you're playing almost literally every rainbow land, like Ancient Ziggurat, Pillar of the Puruns. Like you're going ham.
One thing about the Modern Horizons slivers in particular in this set is that they also don't really solve any of the issues that slivers had. You have more slivers to play with and changelings and whatever it may be, but like they're not adding to the ones that you are super excited for. Don't get me wrong. There's like there's a 2-mana 1/1 that gives all your slivers
Haste and
flying.
That one's
That
good.
card's bonkers.
Yeah.
But then it stops there, basically. You got a couple of other ones, like a changeling that we'll talk about once we get to multicolored. It's quite good, but ultimately you're not getting any more duplicates of the 2-mana 2/2s.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You want Muscle Sliver and you want Sinew Sliver, of which there's only 2.
Or like Crystalline Sliver even,
Yeah.
or Mana Weft Sliver,
Yeah.
Gemhide Sliver.
You didn't get any of the effects that you're like super, super stoked to have.
Like if you look at slivers in other formats too, when it pops up in Modern, or very rarely when it pops up in Legacy,
I played Legacy Slivers for a while and I loved it. I called it Bone Hack.
you get like your strength from the redundancy of pump sliver, like akin to how Merfolk decks have like Lord of Atlantis, a different type of Lord of Atlantis, a clone copying my Lord of Atlantis sort of thing.
It's like,
right?
oh, they're all
3
huge.
mana, it's almost Lord of Atlantis.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah.
well, sorry, Sliver friends. We tried. I don't know. Maybe when we do a meme run, one of us will sleeve up slivers.
Like the meme potential's huge, but
Yeah.
like if you're
And that being said, like if your favorite archetype in Magic is slivers, like jam it. It's not stone unplayable. It's just like from a competitive standpoint, it's definitely not tier 1, probably not tier 2, but that's not to say if you build it, you won't win games. Like, the nut draws with this deck are very good.
There's also the potential that people are not approaching slivers with a commander mindset, which feels weird to say for Highlander, but people just aren't getting greedy enough with them. Like, if you look at slivers in Commander, it's almost exclusively combo related. You're food chaining, you're doing a bunch of degenerate things that way.
Did somebody say food chain?
There we go.
Food chain slivers.
So, like,
all right.
yeah, maybe it's just, like, maybe you'll earn a couple of points by trying to play this as a combo deck or a synergy deck, but you're not killing anybody with the
I'm
aggro
hoping to
mid-range.
not swerve too hard, but can we briefly visit the loaded phrase of, is this viable? Because I encounter that a lot in the context of Magic, and it's a very difficult one to answer because, like, what are you actually asking? Are you saying, could you put these cards together and they would function? Or are they going to win a tournament?
Viability shares the same struggles with defining budget because it changes from person to person, the individual experience that those persons are looking to achieve from the format, from the deck.
Absolutely.
And just like, especially with this format, can I build this? Well,
Sure.
yeah, you have access to literally every card in the game. You can build it.
Like-
Will you win events?
You'll win games like this.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Look, you can win games with anything. If you build your deck...
Ben and I have certainly put that to the test.
Yeah, and like, if you build a deck, you know it intimately, you know what that deck cares about, what you're going to struggle with, whatever it may be, you can win games just off of your knowledge of whatever it is you're
Yeah,
buying.
I mean, like, strictly speaking, you could play 50 Swamps, 50 Shadow... what is that?
Shadowborn Apostle?
Shadowborn Apostle. You could do that. That would be, I'm doing air quotes for the listeners, viable.
Well,
Because
I mean, that's a couple too many lands.
but you would play lands and cast creatures, and the creatures would attack.
All right, I'm gonna
Anyway,
pivot us back
so-
to the set review here. All right, let's get into the color white and our second card, I guess,
What?
for our set review, Astral Drift. This is a 3-mana enchantment for 2 and a white. Whenever you cycle Astral Drift or cycle another card while it's on the battlefield, you may exile target creature, notably target creature, not target creature you control. If you do, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. It also has cycling for 2 and a white. Jer, start us off.
This is almost an Astral Slide that also cycles, which is great. Goes in Tour de France.
I'm
Sorry, what?
Cycling.
Oh my god! I'm so
Cycling
angry!
Tribal.
I'm so mad. I'm just... flames on my face.
Excellent. Yeah, it doesn't change this deck from its cemented place in tier 10, but it goes in the deck. Sweet.
This alt art's great. It's like...
Is it a Fleet Wheel Cruiser?
It's a vehicle that's drifting.
It's like Fast and the Furious 3 Kaladesh Drift.
Speedy speed boy.
All right, next up we have Ephemerate. Ephemerate is a 1-mana instant for a single white. Goodbye, Lion. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. It also has Rebound. So if you cast a spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep? At the beginning of your next upkeep. That was like a bead step there.
That was going to be a thing on my next shirt.
Your unkeep is when you tap all your permanents,
Yeah.
and then you put a card back on top of your library.
So anyways, at the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Jerry, you're a big fan of the Blink deck. How do you feel about this card?
First off, I don't understand why anyone would blink Savannah Lions. That's just,
It might
Seems
not be
pointless.
Savannah Lions.
look at that card. and
It's,
tell
Okay,
me
fine,
not
it's Savannah Lions.
This is
It's
a
a
literal-
lion in a savannah.
It's a literal actual lion. Like, just,
It's technically I don't know.
Yeah, but this card is great for the Blink deck. You're already playing Cloud Shift, and that deck, in that deck, this card is much better. The upside of Cloud Shift is like if you active treason their creature and then blink it, you get to keep it.
Ooh.
But Blink isn't trying to do any of that. This just gives you a free blink on your next upkeep. It's 1 mana, which is really crucial for that deck. You definitely want your single target blink effects to be as cheap as possible, so you don't need to commit to holding them up. It also looks a little more disguised. Like if you have 4 mana, you play a 3-drop. You could just be like, I didn't have a 4-drop. I just have this white mana open. No big deal. Nothing going on here.
Boink.
They try to kill your thing, and then you blink it, and they feel bad.
Can I ask you to compare this to one of my favorite Magic cards of all time, Momentary Blink?
It's better.
Oh.
This is just better than Momentary Blink. So the ability to get a free blink the next turn is better than the ability to choose when you have another blink with flashback?
No, 1 mana is just so much better than 2 mana.
This is literally double the mana.
I didn't realize the flashback on Momentary Blink was 4 mana. I was like, it's 2 mana one time and 1 the other time. Okay, 2 and 4. All right, you win this round. Let's talk about our next card, Force of Virtue. 4 mana enchantment, 2 white. When it is not your turn, you may exile a white card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. It also has flash. And creatures you control get +1/+1. Alex, what do you think about this card?
Holy moly. So, what's the white anthem? The Glorious Anthem.
Hunter's Wampus?
Get out of my podcast. So Glorious Anthem and effects like that, with like enchantment, all your creatures are big. They see a little tiny bit of play. They seem better in like token strategies where
Go
you're
wide.
able to like go super wide. It's kind of appealing that this not only has flash, but you can sort of play it for free.
It's just seems really weird to me that you can only do this on your opponent's turn, and it's like very clearly an aggressive card.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could.
So like, are you just supposed to like play your 1-drop and then like pitch cast your 4-drop to get this into play on your opponent's turn 1? You're like surprise.
At least within our format, the decks that are playing anthems typically tend to stick to the ones that are 2 mana. Very rarely will go up to 3, and then even then the ones that do, like just any deck playing these, it's
Sure,
they don't pop up a lot. So like you're never really hard casting this for the aggressive push, and if you are, then like
your best
You're
line
using
with
4
this
mana on
is like end of their turn.
well, this card was made to ranch people. Like this card
no,
is
and
out
it will.
there for when they're like, well, I'll deluge for 2, and you're like,
You're
oh,
like-
well, here we go.
Ooh,
Gotcha.
ooh, I didn't even think about it as deluge response.
Yeah, to me this reads as a
Save your
you-
biggest creature from Toxic Deluge.
Yeah, haha, got him. And then all the life that they paid or like the mana they invested just feels extra bad because their spell didn't do anything or enough. And then you have +2, +3
Yeah.
or whatever.
Oh yes.
What do you think about being the aggressive deck? Because this is one of the anthems. It's not creature specific. It's not Honor of the Pure. It doesn't care about tokens or that it's white. It's your whole board unconditionally. What do you think of it as counterspell bait? End step, and then either this resolves, your team gets bigger. No, Jared, the control player, you would never counter this.
Not unless you're dead. Not unless you're dead to it,
All right, interesting.
because they just invested 2 cards into it.
You're
Yeah.
just like, okay, you're doing more damage to me. I'm at a life total that is not 0. Now I will blow up your
cast
board.
Wrath of God.
So,
You just pitched a creature. Nice. Good luck rebuilding.
Nobody
Carry
likes this
on.
card. Nobody likes this card.
No,
eh?
I
we
like
like it.
this card. I like this card for the very specific, hyper aggressive, like close to 20 land, white weenie, like every Savannah line.
Ben, just tell people you're playing this card with Suntail Hawk. Get
I'm
it
playing
over
this
with.
card with Suntail Hawk. Like that. This is where this card belongs, and it's going to be great in that deck
Flying birds.
because all my
Three-legged
pretty
birds.
baby birds will survive, and my cute little cats are just going to survive, and it'll be great, and I'll have fun. But that's it. So, like just having realistic expectations for where this will show up and how much grief this is going to cause your opponent is what's key.
Yeah, this
Alright.
card goes in white weenie, not death and taxes. Normally we say the other way around,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next card we're going to talk about is Generous Gift. 3 mana instant. How do you feel about the gift of a white elephant? Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant. This is
Beast within.
Beast Within, color
white.
shifted to white, which is kind of cool. Jared, do you think white needs one of these effects? How do you feel about this card?
Nope. White has pretty good ubiquitous answers already. Council's Judgment being the best, and then you can go into Oblivion Rings if you really want, which I think are generally better than this card.
Yeah.
They're somewhat comparable, but
You get unexpectedly absent.
Unexpectedly Absent's another great one. Skip.
I've played Beast Within in like green-based aggro decks mainly because like green doesn't always have access to the kind of removal you want, and like unconditional, like permanent can be relevant. But Jared's absolutely correct that like there's other options that are
Yeah, white. As we as I mentioned when I was talking about Engulf the Shore, like green and blue are the colors without removal. White is
Sure.
not one. White is not green or blue. You have removal. Play.
Now,
Real better.
one last
Removal.
question.
Yeah.
Oh, help me out. What's that enchantment that cares about your opponent having creatures?
You're going to have to be infinitely more specific.
The 2-mana
Oath of
enchantment,
Druids?
Oath of Druids.
No.
You don't play this in Oath? Because I've definitely played
don't even
Beast
play
Within.
Beast Within an
You
Oath.
don't even play Beast Within an Oath. Just Unexplored Orchard or whatever it's called.
Forbidden Orchard.
Forbidden Orchard. That's it.
I do play Forbidden Orchard.
Huh. All right. Well,
But it's forbidden.
sorry, White Elephant. Nobody wants your gift.
It's a cute elephant, though.
It is a very cute
It is a
Kev
very
Walker
cute elephant. Next card we're going to talk about is, this is a spicy one, Giver of Runes. 1 mana, 1/2 core cleric, tap. Another target creature you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice until end of turn. So notably not Mother of Runes, but close. Alex, how do you feel about this card?
So cute. So just to like get this out of the way, this is a perfect example of like people being like, "Well, it's strictly better, right?" It's like, no, it's not. It's really good though. It's comparable favorably to Mother of Runes in that it has almost the same abilities, only like kind of better because like colorless protection is handy. It can't target itself, which can be relevant.
It's a big deal.
It's a bigger deal than you might expect. The creature types are way less relevant. But why the hell does it have 2 toughness?
Deathrite Shaman.
We didn't want it to die to electricity.
Okay. No, this card's amazing. I think you play both. I can't think of a single situation where you play one over the other. I think they're both excellent. Mother of Runes and Giver of Runes. I think they're both really, really good.
Jaren, Ben, you two look like you have opinions.
I think Mother of Runes is better.
Well,
Yes.
Just because the way the games often play out with Mother of Runes is you need to use 2 removal spells to kill the first creature, whether that's Mother of Runes or the thing you absolutely have to kill to not die. You want it to be Mother of Runes, but whereas with Giver of Runes, the first removal spell just kills the Giver of Runes, and the second removal spell kills the thing you need to not die. So Mother of Runes just like is almost always going to blank the first removal spell, whereas Giver of Runes is not.
Yeah, Mother of Runes is in that category of like your opponent untapping with Jace, them getting to hit you with a GT creature. Like when they play a Mom, you have to kill it, or else they get to untap with Mom. And then when they untap with Mom, the rest of the game is incredibly awkward and just super like anything you do just gets disrupted infinitely.
I will say, protection from colorless.
I was going to say,
That's
can
pretty
we
slick.
talk about that? Yeah.
Well, okay, obviously it's protection from artifacts.
Or Mazavith. It's
Yeah,
protection
that's
from lands.
exactly what
and
I was gonna say.
Protection from Caracas. I mean, that's not nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
we talk about how Caracas is the bane of legendary creatures in our format.
But Caracas has white mana, so it just
So for anybody who was curious, Caracas is colorless because it's a land. And that's an interaction that's not irrelevant. I mean, obviously they can do end step, untap, tap it on their own turn or something like that. So there are plays around it, but it does
Surge,
factor in
I
somewhere.
will attack with my Mishra's Factory. Try and strip mine it. Idiot.
They can strip mine it in response to you making it a creature.
then they respond by activating it again.
Sure.
It's still a land.
We both
It's
have
still-
infinite mana, and we
It's still a land.
You,
yeah, it's
are
still
you
You need to
kidding
give
me?
it protection from strip mine. With Giver of Runes.
because it's a creature that has protection from this, but it's also a land. It's
Any other thoughts on the Giver of Runes?
card's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Good
Cool.
card.
All right, let's move on. I want to talk about the Ranger Captain of Eos. This is a 3-mana 3/3 for 1 white. It's a human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost 1 or less, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. More text, sacrifice it. Your opponents can't cast non-creature spells this turn. And Jer sniped this one.
I stole it from Ben.
Originally, Ben wanted to talk about it, but Jer was like, no.
I'm going to give it to him halfway through. Don't worry.
Okay. Jer, start us off. How do you feel about this card?
This card's really good. At first, it seems like a nice value creature, which it is, it'll go in your D&T decks. It'll go in your green-white mid-range decks. But where I actually think it's at its best, and I haven't talked to Ben about this, so I don't know if he agrees with me, is in eggs.
What?
Yeah, I think it's best in eggs. It searches your library to find Walking Ballista, and it silences them all in one card.
Ben Wheeler, your thoughts?
So, first off, this is a card that's in a cycle of cards specifically printed to ranch me and my family. It's one that has popped up. I mean, as Jared said, it pops. Like, you know what this card's going. The decks that are really going to be like, oh yeah, easy include. Not traditional eggs, but I've thought about including the. Okay, so for a card that will definitely pop up later, in the next episode, there will be a card popping up that we'll talk about how much I hate it, which has caused me to think outside the box for eggs.
It'll be in this episode.
And then, it'll be in this one? Great.
Yeah.
But yeah, this card in more diverse versions of eggs where finding, as you said, Walking Ballista or finding Salvage Scout, which is kind of clutch, a card that doesn't get enough respect from people, which is a 1-mana 1/1, a white 1-mana 1/1, that you pay a white, sack it to return any artifact from your graveyard to your hand. Card looks really bad. It opens up a whole bunch of different infinite loops and good utility creature, but yeah, being able to silence them is great. Also, Sandy B, so Pattern Rector is a place that I've really thought about including this card. Being able to find any of the sack outlets, the 1-mana sack outlets, being able to find...
Like 1-mana protection creatures.
Sylvan Safekeeper.
Like Sylvan Safekeeper, Benevolent Bodyguard, whatever it may be. And then also just preventing your control opponent from wrathing on the turn that you really just need to spend developing your mana.
Yeah. I have a name suggestion for your new eggs deck. Omelette du fromage.
All right.
Anyways.
Cool. Let's move on then. Next up, we have Sarah the Benevolent. 4-mana Planeswalker. Planeswalker type Sarah. Looks like she got her spark. Has 4 loyalty, +2. Creatures you control with flying get +1/+1 until end of turn. -3, make a Sarah Angel, so 4/4 Angel token with flying and vigilance. And -6, you get an emblem with if you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. Alex, what do you think about this Planeswalker?
I kind of dig it. Okay, so this is dumb and probably not even correct, but when I saw this card, it was spoiled a long time ago.
Yeah, with the announcement of the
one
set.
of the first two.
I wanted to play it in blue-white skies.
Yeah?
Seems good.
Just like be able to pump your whole board. It making a nice, big, thick angel. It's a pretty good minus ability. Unless I'm completely off the mark, it seems to tick all the relevant boxes for a Planeswalker.
I think this card is great.
Yeah. Like, you play it, you make an angel, and then you have a Planeswalker that very quickly ticks up again. That bumps the angel you made, as well as potentially other members of your team.
Cool.
It's pretty good.
And in a lot of matchups, the emblem is what you'll be trying to get because your opponent just won't be able to win.
Yes.
Like if you're in like against Death and Taxes or White Weenie, the emblem's virtually unbeatable.
Just leave a flyer off to the side. You're like,
If
cool.
you're against Burn, it's actually very difficult for Burn to beat. It's actually very difficult for Burn to both kill you and all of your creatures.
Yeah.
Get a pro-red creature in play.
Oh,
Bolt this.
stop it. That's disgusting.
Literally
I
can't
like it.
lose.
Disgusting.
All right. Next up, let's talk about Sisay, the Weatherlight Captain. 3-mana 2/2 legendary creature, human soldier. Gets +1/+1 for each color amongst other legendary permanents you control. And for Wooburg, you may search your library for a legendary permanent card with CMC less than their current power, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Alex, run it back. What do you think of this card?
It's weird. What deck wants to play this?
5-color
Five-color
zoo.
aggro?
5-color humans? 5-color zoo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totes.
Are you casting Wooburg a lot? I mean, I guess it just puts it into play. That's kind of rad.
And you play legendary creatures of a bunch of different
Well, yeah,
colors.
because like a lot of the best 2-color ones, like Gadok Teague,
Geist of Saint Traft.
Geist of Saint Traft. There is it Linvala?
Edric.
Yeah, okay.
Leovold.
Play Leovold, attack for 5.
Moxamber.deck.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
I hate Caracas.
Hey, do you want to play a 5-color aggro deck that isn't bad? Anyway.
Amazing. All right. Next up, let's talk about On Thin Ice. 1 mana Snow Enchantment Aura. Enchant snow land that you control. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until On Thin Ice leaves the battlefield. Jer, what do you think about this?
I could potentially see playing it in blue-white control if you go to snow basics. You definitely have a high enough density of snow basics in your deck to just swap them to snow and make this a fairly reliable removal spell.
Is anyone ever playing Chain to the Rock, which is sort of the equivalent?
This is Chain to the Rock's only easier to...
Yeah, because Chain to the Rock forces you to be...
White-red.
Yeah. Which, yeah.
It's my favorite prison
what
color
Ben
pair.
said.
Right.
The fact that you can play this and you don't need to... You can play it on, like, if you're blue-white, you can play it on an island or a plains is quite relevant.
You could also play this turn 1 if you had to.
Yeah.
So...
I could see playing this in blue-white if you swap to snow basics. I also think almost every deck in Highlander should swap to snow basics.
Yeah, probably. All right, next up, we have Vesper Lark.
Pretty little baby bird.
So 3 mana, 2/1 elemental. It has flying. When it leaves the battlefield, return target creature with power 1 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield and evoke for 2. This is Mini Lark. Ben, tell me what you think about this card.
Baby lark.
I hate you. Oh.
This card's cute. This card's also actually pretty good. Like, you can set up loops with this. It's a little bit more awkward. Obviously, like, setting up Revelark loops gets pretty easy once you do it once or twice, and it allows for a lot of, oops, I screwed up, but it's okay, because Revelark is very open with 2 power or less and 2 creatures. But the Vesper Lark is cheap enough to not feel super bad when you draw it in your hand, as opposed to, like, it can be a bit clunky if you're playing something like Pattern Rector, or especially something like Flash Hulk.
Well, I mean, it's like you don't feel bad drawing like a 2/1 with evasion for 3 that might get back something that you want.
Depends on
you'll
the
still
deck.
feel kind of, depending on the deck, you'll still feel kind of bad. I know I won't feel as bad with, like, Sandy. Like, popping this out when I just have an elf in play, and if somebody arc trails me or whatever it may be, I get to... It makes
Or it's really
recovering...
good insulation for your sack outlets as well, because often people, as they rightly should against that deck, like, kill the sack outlet on site.
Yes.
So it's just having another card that gets back sack outlets is great.
I'm excited to really explore this card and just really do a deep dive on every kind of loop that you can create with it. Unfortunately, Body Double is still broken on Magic Online, so that might make it a little more difficult. But yeah, great card.
All right, let's talk about our last white card of the set reviews so far, Winds of Abandon. 2 mana sorcery for 1 and a white. Exile target creature you don't control. For each creature exiled this way, its controller searches their library for a basic land card, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle their library, or you can overload it for 6. Alex, what do you think?
I actually kind of want to throw this one over to Jer, because, like...
Control player, Wrath of Exile here?
I don't think you want this in control. It's possible, but 2 mana sorcery speed removal isn't really where you want to be. If it was an instant, we'd be talking. If it was 1 mana, we'd be talking. But 2 mana, you realistically don't want to play this until turn 4, where you can also hold up a counterspell to make sure they can't deploy something, like, very difficult to answer along with it. And in terms of, like, once you're getting up to Wrathsville in 6 mana, there's just better things you can do. Like, I'd play Hallowed Burial before I played this. I'd play... there's a bunch of, like, utility-based 5 and 6 mana Wraths.
Say,
like Nova.
The one
only
that
deck I
also
could
blows
see
up
this
artifacts
in
and enchantments.
would be, like, some sort of control ship, but like you say, there's just better options.
This card's real good for D&T.
It's a really cool card.
Yeah. Well, for Death and Taxes, you're already playing tools that restrict what your opponent can do when it comes to searching their library.
Mind
So
Sensor.
you get the same Leon and Arbiter Mind Sensor kind of shenanigans, but that's not necessarily the selling point. The selling point is that you can ramp them, and then you're just going to Armageddon anyways. And you're also a deck that the point spread will typically focus on fast mana, so it's not far-fetched for you to overload it and then use that as your final push, because Death and Taxes can definitely be a deck that doesn't mind going long and just chipping away until you get to a point where they're like, well, I have to fight for the board, so they put stuff down, and then you just pump all your mana into overloading and kill them.
Okay.
And that deck's also playing like City of Traders Ancient Tomb as well on top of the Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, etc. So
Neat.
This art is so gorgeous. By the way.
Yeah.
If you are an
it's
audio listener,
really nice.
please look up Winds of Abandon by Noah Bradley. Just knocking it out of the park. It is.
for sure.
All right, let's move on to blue. The first blue card we're going to talk about today is Archmage's Charm. For blue. That just says blue. You get to choose one. It's a modal counterspell. You can counter target spell, target player draws 2, or gain control of target non-land permanent with CMC 1 or less. Jer, tell me about this card. You're nodding. You seem very excited.
This card's great. It's a slam dunk in mono blue decks. It's very, very good in blue-based 2-color control decks. And if you want to get a little greedy in blue-based, you're not playing double colors of whatever 2 splash colors you're playing. You can likely play it in that deck and just not reliably cast it on turn 3, which I think is still fine. This card's very good. Gaining control of target non-land permanent with CMC 1 or less at instant speed is insane. People don't understand how good that is. It's probably the mode you're going to use the least, but when you use it, it's going to be like the best mode on the card, and it's not even close, and the other 2 modes are very good. Just like, yeah, it's so good. Letting a Time Vault player like tutor for their key, cast their key, because they always cast the key before the Time Vault. Then they cast Time Vault with 1 mana open, then you steal their key. It just feels so good. Like, and yeah, just
it's not even till end of turn. You just have it
no,
forever.
you just get it. Stealing a Mana Dork from a green deck is great. Stealing a 1 mana creature to block, like,
It's a 2-for-1.
it's so good. Having another hard counterspell is always great, and the worst mode on the card is drawing 2 cards. Like, yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, next up, Bazaar Trader Mage. 3 mana gets you a 3/4 with flying, human wizard, and when it enters the battlefield, draw 2, discard 3. Ben Wheeler.
A whole new world. Initially, when I was excited to see this card because it has Serendib Ifrit stats.
Yeah.
Love it.
3 mana, 3/4. That is great to cast off Ancient Tomb. Super easy to get in. And then, like, slowly I started to think, like, no, I can this card feels like it's going to slap in Reanimator decks, World Gorger decks. Like, just being able to put something that they very rarely do. Does your opponent want to have to interact with your setup cards? So, like, countering a Champion of Wits feels really bad, but people have started to be like, well, this card's going to eventually kill me, or, like, it's a strong enough setup. This is a 3/4 flyer. So when this hits the battlefield, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to deal with. And then the more I've been thinking about it, I'm kind of just down to play this card in blue-based decks. Just like so many archetypes use the graveyard that, like, yeah, you're up 2, and then you got to discard 3 cards, but you have your guy still in play. Like, so many decks don't want Bazaar Baghdad, but I'll take that one-time activation on top of a massive body that is super easy to cast.
I'm gonna slam this in rug tempo so fast.
Yeah.
Wheeler, quick question.
Yes.
It's a wizard, and it has it's pretty muscly.
Okay.
It has a new border though.
Yeah, we can't play this in...
Not playable muscle wizards. Got it.
But it is playable in Sea Stompy. And medium blue.
Stop.
All right. Next up, Echo of Eons. 6 mana sorcery, 4 blue, Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7. Or you can flashback it for 3. Ben, why don't you tell me about this card?
This card is so stupid. It's so good. This card is so good. So there's a bit of a tradition that anytime any kind of Time Twister or Wheel of Fortune variant comes out, people are like, wow, this card's great. And then it ends up either A, not being good, or B, having very niche application, mostly due to the fact that they aren't Time Twister. There's something, either the cost is way too big, they cost like 5, as in like Time Reversal or Reforge the Soul, and then, or they're like Days Undoing, where you have to end your turn. So this one being 6 mana as just a Time Twister, great. But then there's flashback on this card.
So it's cheap.
So you're fine to just pay this for 6, but then when you think about the decks that want Twister effects, other cards start popping up. Paradox Engine loves this.
High
High Tide loves this. LED decks love this.
Basically,
like,
decks
holy
that
smokes.
don't have any trouble getting to 6.
Yes. Or to
or
3.
discarding it.
Yeah.
Like with eggs, right? Like being able to just have an added wheel plus added man. Like there's a joke that I've had of like eggs has so many turn 1s, like Black Lotus Wheel of Fortune. That's a turn 1 kill, where like you just get to muck their hand entirely, and it doesn't matter what you draw because you've probably already pooped out your things, or your deck is so cheap, etc. But this just adds like 5 other ways to do this.
If I may very quickly throw to the L2 judge, when you cast Echo of Aeons, because people are curious probably about flashback, where does this spell end up?
Graveyard.
So that's kind of handy. You draw 7, shuffle everything back, and it's available your next turn.
I'll explain it a little better.
Please.
So when you cast a spell, it is on the stack where the spell starts to resolve. The spell completely resolves, and then the card is moved from the stack to the graveyard. And so the spell is done resolving when that happens.
So while it's resolving, each player is shuffling their hand. The shuffle thing's happening while this card exists over to the side, and once it's all done, Echo of Aeons becomes the only card in your graveyard.
Presumably.
Well, yeah. Very cool. Very
That's
cool.
just ridiculous.
Should we move on?
Yes.
All right. Next up, we have Exclude.
That's
Everdream.
I'm sorry. Next up, we have Everdream. Beej is right. I was wrong. 2 mana instant, draw a card, or for splice onto instant or sorcery, 3 mana. Jer, what do you think about this card?
This feels like a Paradox Engine combo card. Other than that, I don't really see it. It's it's too expensive to be a value card.
You're not going to attach it to Counterspell or Mana Drain or something?
No. There's better ways to draw many more cards.
Yeah, and Paradox Engine getting a couple of cards in. Well, I mean, we just talked about one. Like your slots are getting so much more competitive that including something like this that you could potentially take use of.
For some reason, I thought it was buyback.
Oh
yeah.
no!
All right,
Yeah, you
never
splice.
mind.
No, splice.
No.
Oh, big
I
nope.
was like, is this a better
Whispers of the Muse?
Yeah. I was like, it costs 2, but then only 3, so it's 3 double blue instead of 1 5.
okay.
But,
All right, let's move on to Exclude, the card that I skipped ahead to. So Exclude is a 3 mana instant for 2 and a blue, counter target creature, and draw a card.
Surge.
This is
Going to Jer there.
Yeah, it was like.
Was this intentionally added?
I did. I thought it was interesting. I thought this is one of the a counterspell that viewers might be curious about. It's a reprint.
yeah, it's a reprint. It doesn't really see much play anymore just because there's so many other 3 mana counter spells that deal with any card type, which is really what you want from your 3 mana counter spells. You don't want to leave up your 3 mana counter spell and have your opponent play a planeswalker and you're just like, get him. No, can't. Yeah, can't do it. So
I thought it was just worth taking a peek at there.
it still sees occasional play, like if in your meta there's a lot of mid-range specifically, but even now the mid-range decks are just jamming so many planeswalkers equipment. It just feels so bad to sit there with Exclude and you're just like praying that your opponent plays a creature. You're just like, play a creature, play a creature, play a creature. Yeah.
All right, next up we have the Kite.
What the hell is that?
It's had too much coffee.
It's so cute.
It's a 1/2 flyer for 1 and a blue. Creature type Drake. And when it gets +2/+0, as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards in a turn. I'm just going to keep throwing to Jer here. Jer, tell me about this card.
This card has some potential in tempo decks, I guess. That's where you're most likely to draw 2 or more cards. I don't think you want to play it in blitz style decks because it's a static ability. You're not getting like multiple buffs in a turn. If you like Ancestral Vision yourself and then recall, it's not getting +6. So you could maybe play it in tempo. I think it's still a little too expensive and difficult to turn on though.
I mean, it'd be cool. Like, you just have to cantrip once and this is on.
I guess.
But
yeah.
every turn.
Yeah, you want cards for blitz strategies that don't really care. That just say like, please cast a non-creature spell. I don't care what it is, just do it.
Right, prowess. Next up, Fairy Seer. 1 mana, gets you a 1/1 flying fairy wizard, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 2. Alex, you seem excited.
It's a fairy that goes. It's a flying man that goes in flying men. This is really good. This is strictly better than Zephyr Sprite.
This is strictly better than a lot.
Like,
Yeah.
this is actually like pretty pushed as far as
It's
like
one of the best flying men ever.
I would argue that this one, at least for the Flying Men deck, this is the best Flying Men for that. Because it allows you to, for those not super familiar, this is a deck that will play like under 24 lands. And this is...
Which means you should probably play 26.
No. You
If you're
flat
not
out
a
on.
sack.
I'd pick 24 because I was like, I'm going to get roasted if I say 21. So I have to say 24.
I know how many you actually play.
when you want.
Try, but it lets you push.
What I've
You
started
can-
doing is just taking the number of lands Ben says to play and then adding 2.
And
I'm
add,
pretty
like,
sure it's an
20%,
exact.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure. No, not 20%, just 2. I'm pretty sure that's the exact science on how many lands you're actually
See,
supposed to
I've been
play.
taking the lands that I play, and I've just been cutting one.
So it being a fairy is actually like kind of great.
Yes.
Because
the
like
creature types are very
well,
relevant.
every time you get a fairy that can replace one of your not fairies, it makes your spell stutter sprite amazing.
Yeah, like the reason we're talking about this card over the 1 mana 1/1 Vigilance Angel from that's
In white, yeah.
is that both these seem just like 1 mana flyers that have additional text on them, but every part of this card is relevant. So
Pitch it to
obviously
force it,
it's
Will.
just exactly. It's just a 1 mana flying creature that has 2 relevant creature types that pop up in Flying Men. Through Spellstutter Sprite, through, even stuff like being able to Familiars Ruse this back to your hand, being able to keep hands that are a bit greedy on mana, but combining this with like a cantrip, almost, it puts you where you're like, oh, I'm definitely hitting my other lands here. Just like pushing 2 garbage cards to the bottom or setting up your next couple of turns, knowing when to use your fetches, whatever it may be, like it helps set up so many things.
Would you play this in not flying men?
Maybe if you're like really trying to push for a fairy tribal deck, but even then it doesn't really fit the role of what that deck's looking to do.
All right, let's move on to our next card. Another reprint, I included this, Fluster Storm. So 1 mana instant, counter target instant or sorcery unless its controller pays 1, and Storm, so copy the spell for every spell cast previously. Jer, are any control mages playing Fluster Storm?
Only combo control decks in the control spectrum, but it's a pretty reasonable card to include in combo decks. Like, I've started playing some combo decks that play Force of Will and Fluster Storm as protection spells to sort of complement the black disruption that I usually play. I don't typically play decks that have access to silences and stuff, so sometimes when I play combo decks, I want to supplement that with some more disruption, and Fluster Storm and Force of Will are good options.
You're using the word force a lot. Let's talk about our next card, Force of Negation. So 3 mana instant for 1 blue, and then it says, if it is not your turn, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay its mana cost, counter target non-creature spell, and if it's countered that way, exile it instead of put it into your graveyard. What do you think about this new counter spell?
I've been thinking about this one a lot. I honestly still don't know how I feel. I think I'll need to play it in a bunch of different decks beforehand. I definitely think it's playable. Other than that, I'm gonna hold out judgment until I try it out some more. I think it'll likely be meta dependent how good it is and how many decks you want to include it in.
This card's definitely terrifying to me.
Yeah, it's obviously good if Ben Wheeler's playing in the same tournament you
If
are.
you're sitting across from Wheeler,
But it also has the potential to not do a whole lot.
It's also good with the decks of younger Wheeler years, where like I think this card's great for like Jeskai or any kind of like Brimaz blue-based mid-rangey deck where you get to slam your threat, try to pressure them, and then if they have a way, if they're then using that as an opportunity for like, oh, the blue deck's tapped out, post memes, like then you get to just have the force to match it. And if their follow-up is a creature, well, you're either, I mean, the first ones that come to mind are like Esper or Jeskai, and then you just swords to plowshares, whatever they have, or burnout, or go for the throat, whatever it may be.
the downside with this one is you can't use it to protect your own spells, though. Like you can't like
Right.
Forcible, you can't cast your game-winning threat and protect it.
Ben's point is in the mid-range decks, it really
You don't
doesn't
care.
matter because
Yeah,
you have a high
yeah,
density of
Answers
Brimazes
anyways,
and
yeah.
Planeswalkers
Well,
and
the other thing,
dragons.
Serge,
and-
is that its non-pitch opportunity cost is way lower.
Yeah, like as it, I mean, you will cast this for 3 mana.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
And
oh, yeah.
Exile is super relevant.
Yeah.
It's definitely like Dissipate is a real Magic card, and I'm not just saying that because I'm staring
Sir,
at
you
one
mean
right now.
All right.
Dissipate?
It's I just want to, I know we're not supposed to do this, but I think it's kind of funny that it's the exile clause is actively bad in Modern currently because of Karn. Just like
Interesting.
if you counter like the Mycosynth Lattice
I
or
mean,
something.
Modern
then-
is also actively bad currently because of Karn.
Oh.
As somebody that's playing 4 cards in Modern.
Wow.
Let's move on to another reprint here.
Wow.
This is a card that I was disappointed my co-hosts didn't add, but I added it myself. Future Sight. What do you?
This card's been a format staple since 2007.
Has
though.
it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of people have started not playing Future Sight, and I wanted to talk about it.
There was like 5 years, but
So let me introduce what Future Sight is. Future Sight is a 5-mana enchantment for 2 blue. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library. Sorry, Jer, go ahead.
I'm gonna shout out homie of the podcast, Blake Rasmussen, with the recent uptick in Future Sights.
Yeah.
About a year-ish, maybe a little longer ago, he crushed with a blue-white list, and he was like, oh yeah, Future Sight's the best card in this deck, everyone should be playing it. And I talked to him a bunch about it, and then I started playing Future Sight in a few lists, including Blue Moon and Grixis and Blue Eye Control and Jeskai, and it was one of the best cards in all of those decks.
It feels like this card mostly dropped off in locally, but nowhere else. And it only dropped off for like just people assuming that like, well, I got to make cuts for these new cards
They
coming
did.
out.
I mean,
better
people
be
started,
Future Sight.
People started cutting Future Sight for Keranos, and then they just cut Keranos.
Keranos,
Yeah, Keranos is not
unplayable.
It's not good.
But that's so funny. But that was the thing there. It's like 5 mana doesn't do enough, but the amount of card advantages does. The role it plays not only in control but in combo decks. So Future Sight would top. I basically, if I ever have blue in a lands deck, I play every copy of play the top card of your library you can. Future Sight, Magus of the Future. What's the enchantment creature? The 2/4?
Courser.
Courser of Crewfix.
Yes, the international
Oh,
symbol
wait.
for Courser.
Courser.
yeah, I mean, Future Sight has in Victoria alone, it has 3 tournament wins for 2019.
This year? Yeah. So this card's great. All right. I just wanted to make sure we talked about it. Here's another card that I was sad wasn't included. Merit Lodge's Slumber. Not necessarily because it's good, because it's interesting, and I bet you people would want to know our thoughts on it.
Are you saying people are sleeping on this? I'll leave.
2 mana legendary snow enchantment for 1 and a blue. Whenever it or another snow permanent enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more snow permanents, sack it. And look at this, it's a backdoor from Merit Lodge, our favorite 2020 flying indestructible spaghetti token.
Are you trying to say that Dark Depths is the front door to Merit Lodge?
Yeah, and this is the back door. There was only one door before. I'm assuming that was the front door, and now there's a back door.
Moving on.
Is this
So,
her winter home?
I don't know. This card's interesting. We already talked earlier in the episode about are people, especially in 1 or 2 color decks, going to change all their lands over to snow permanents?
So, like, what would it take for you? How many scries would it take for you to play a 2-mana enchantment that just scryed? Like, you have a 2-mana thing, and you have to say, this will scry X amount of times. what do you need?
Scry one X amount of times?
Yeah, you get to scry one. Like, if you're, I don't know, there's no way to format this on a Magic card, but if somebody was like, all right, you have to play this 2-mana Magic card that is going to let you scry one multiple times throughout a course of a game, how many times would you need that card to scry one before you play that
Interesting.
card?
So
And it's gotta be a lot.
You're comparing this to, what's that? The enchantment that's equivalent to
As
this.
Kanta.
As Kanta, you know.
No.
Hold on a second here. If Search for Kanta didn't flip, if it only said scry one.
And Surveil is much better than Scry.
So,
is it surveil?
yeah,
It puts
you
the cards into your
effectively
graveyard.
surveil. But even
Okay.
I wasn't
Fair
trying to,
point. Fair point.
Yeah,
fair
I
point.
can't think of any playable cards that is just 2 mana and then you scry a certain amount of times. But it's just like, I gave some long hard thought to this card because, I mean, something like Curb plays, or like the Turns deck, the blue-green Turns, plays a lot of lands, plays a lot of snow lands because it's, I mean, already played snow lands before the
Into the
set
north.
to Into the North for Dark Depths and all that
Yeah.
jazz. It also plays Boreal Druid. But like,
It's no permanent.
it's just there for the decks that are really looking to take advantage of this kind of thing. They already have better options. They
Sure.
have more reliable options. And then, like, if you really want to go as deep as the payoff, there are just better, quicker, more reliable ways of killing your opponent.
Yep.
Like the strength of Merit Lodge in a lot of decks that look to pump it out is that those decks pump it out quickly.
Yeah, it comes out of
or
nowhere.
they do it over and over and
Yeah,
over.
you're not surprising anybody with Merit Lodge when it comes out of the
The
slumber.
advantage of Dark Depths is you can do it on your opponent's end step, and
Yeah.
they don't get a turn to do it. This
Yeah.
triggers on your upkeep, so unless you're giving it haste,
Just
your opponent gets a full turn
Slam
cycle
this
to
turn
deal
two,
with
and
it.
you're like, oh, I'm gonna get you.
All right. Well, I wasn't necessarily saying it was.
No, it's a good card.
Yeah.
It's certainly a
worth
good card to
discussing.
talk about. It's also just like a big one that people are excited about because it has the words Merit Lodge on it.
I'm also
love
confused
it.
about the flavor. So the two ways to get Merit Lodge.
Yeah.
You either melt a bunch of ice
Or put more.
or dump a bunch of snow on it. That seems really backwards. Like lots of snow, melt ice. I'm confused.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on. Next up, we have Mirrodin Besieged. See what we did there?
Hey, that was a whole set.
Right? 3 mana enchantment for 2 and a blue. When it enters the battlefield in the war, you get to pick the side of the Mirren or the Phyrexians. If you choose the Mirren, whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token. Or you can side with the Phyrexians. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card, then discard a card. Then, if there are 15 or more artifacts in your graveyard, instead of you win, target opponent loses the game. Yes, you are Wheeler.
So-
it has the word artifact printed on it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have feelings.
So for starters, I find it very funny that it's like, pick a side that we've already told the story so you know who loses this. But purely from a card aspect, this card has been brought up to me a lot. I remember the day this got printed, I woke up to literal like 30 Twitter or 30 Twitter at me with like, hey, is this playable? Hey, is this playable? Hey, is this playable? Like, are you playing this in eggs?
Well,
it's Psy.
is
it's
it
Saheeli.
playable?
I don't know. So like the two cards that pop up are Psy Master Thopterist and Saheeli Sublime Artificer.
Yeah.
And those two cards are absolute gas and borderline broken when things start going.
Sure.
And a lot of that comes from not just the fact that they are able to poop out multiple artifact tokens, but that there's other text on it. Like with Saheeli, a lot of people are joking about like, wow, Saheeli, I didn't know Saheeli had a loyalty ability. And it's like, this loyalty ability is busted in
It's
the
just
Saheeli
like,
decks. It lets you...
Turn my servo into second memory jar.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha, you're dead.
I've always wanted a second Aetherflux Reservoir. Here we go. Oh, free Black Lotus? Sure. Or like Psy being like, well, I have all these eggs I need to put in the graveyard to draw extra cards at a reasonable rate. Okay. But like Mirrodin Besieged doesn't do that with the Mirren part. You just get tokens if you pick Mirren. And then people talking about the Phyrexian side, like these artifact decks kill so quickly. Like I don't have time to get... I put a lot of artifacts in my graveyard, but I don't have time to get 15 and then go to the end step. If you put 15 artifacts in your graveyard and this game is still technically going by the time you get to the end step, two things have happened. One, you're so thoroughly ranched that your opponent's like, oh, it'd be funny if I let them get to end step and then I disallow this. Or you're already killing them. So it's just
But Ben, it almost says you win the game.
I know.
Almost. Not quite, but almost.
Don't get it twisted. I'm going to play this card. I'm going to try out this card. There are some cute things that you can do where, like, you combo off, make a bunch of tokens, and then you blink this and pick Phyrexian and go to your end step.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just both sides of these aren't good enough to justify putting in decks that...
What if you got both?
Yeah, what if you just played it and that was both static abilities?
Oh, yeah, then this card's gas.
All right,
If
cool.
you get both,
That's
then,
what I thought.
then
Yeah.
you have, like, an EOT loot that wins you the game while also pooping out
Yeah.
tokens, which is basically
One or
Psy
the
Seer.
other is really tough. I don't like one or the other makes this card borderline playable.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at battle bots for this too. You're like Workshop Weenie, and that's the thing. It's like it's a
not a
3-mana
threat,
thing
though.
that it's not a threat. It doesn't do enough by itself, even though it produces bodies. It just the ability statically by itself isn't enough.
Now, if we're talking about an artifact-based self-mill strategy where we try to win
my
on
God.
turn 3 or 4 off of the second ability, then you got my
Yeah,
my
so
attention.
mirrored and
Traumatized,
besieged.
target
Hermit Druid.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hermit
Oh,
Druid, mirrored and
People
besieged.
talked about Hermit
Okay.
Druid with this card.
Oath of Druids?
Okay, all right.
Blocking that day.
Let's move on. Let's move on. Mist Syndicate Naga. Our first ninja that we've talked about this set. 3-mana, 3/1 Naga Ninja. Say that 8 times fast. Has ninjutsu. So for Fortuna Blue, you may return an unblocked creature and then put this into play tapped and attacking. Whenever it deals damage to combat... whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a token of it. Wheeler, what do you think?
I like ninjas, and that's not just because I'm an insufferable weep. It's also because this has very easy costs. So 2 and a blue, that's music to my ears. I actually don't think this card's that. It's definitely not one of the best cards in this set for an archetype that's looking to sneak some ninjas in. Or
like,
whatnot.
"Ha-ha."
It's not even the best.
Did you play
ninja.
this in Flying Man?
No.
I'm thinking about playing this in blue-white tempo.
One toughness is a bit of a deal breaker as well. Like Arc
But
Trail
every
and
creature in your deck has 1 toughness.
Oh no, I mean in general. I like for flying men, this card costs 3 mana and doesn't fly. Evasion's pretty key for that deck. But like Forkbolt and Arc Trail are at their best. They're better than they've ever been right now.
Yeah.
And so like pooping out things that just get knocked off by random Grim Lavamancers and whatnot.
Grim Lavamancer can't beat this card.
Yeah, it kills one, and then you just keep replicating.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
like,
but you just have the Lavamancer
going.
in play, and then they're just screwed.
are we just gonna not talk
What am I
about
missing?
this putting 6 power?
Yeah, that's what
onto
I'm
the
saying.
field
I
for
think this
2
is
and a
good.
They're
blue?
gonna
You think
try
this is good?
They're going to try to Lavamance your unblocked creature. You're going to respond by ninjutsuing that creature out, putting this in 6 power, boom, their Lavamancer's useless.
Yeah.
You Lavamancer EOT. You never do it in combat. What?
Well, that,
You're
if-
gonna die.
You're gonna die if you don't. I think
You're
this
gonna
card's
die?
good.
What life total are you? Like, look, obviously I'm saying what I'm
This
saying
cracks
is that
once, it becomes very
this
hard
card
to
is
deal
so
with.
predictable. Is
I
what
like
I'm
this
saying,
card.
for a ninja. Like,
I'm going to
there's
kill
so-
Pete. I'm going to kill Ben with this card.
I'm gonna
calling
kill
it
Ben with
now.
this card. Yeah, right.
Place your
give me-
bets.
Give me one of these.
Serge,
Yeah.
you're not going to kill me with this
I'm
card.
never
What
gonna
are you,
kill Ben.
nuts?
I'm
Am I going
sorry.
to kill you with this card?
Nope, probably not. I mean, this card is just like not good. Like, what am
Challenge
I missing?
accepted.
Challenge accepted. All right.
It's 6 power for 3 mana.
All right,
2
viewers,
toughness.
look forward to Wheeler versus the Ninjas on the next Friday Night Paper Fight. All right,
Sorry,
let's-
can we put up our hands? Who here has played a deck on camera with about 8 ninjas in it? Just curious.
That lost to cycling.
Okay, yeah. And this card's not going to change it. This card's going to be added to the deck, and it's so bad you'll continue to lose to cycling because they'll just cycle and blank the token,
That'll be the
and
red.
you'll never see
Like
it.
we've already established that the existing archetype loses to cycling. This will help, but it's not enough of a buff to push it
Cycling
over top
OP.
of cycling.
This
I'm
card's-
gonna
this
move us
card's
on.
just
I'm gonna
not
move
good.
us on. Scour all possibilities. 2 mana sorcery. Scry 2. Draw a card, and then it has flashback for 5. Jer.
This is expensive preordain. I could maybe see playing it in High Tide, but
All right, so not in the hierarchy of new draw spells that's gonna cut any of the old ones.
probably not.
The art's very good.
Good art.
Okay, snuff. 3 mana counterspell for 1 blue. counter target spell non-conditional, or if you have 5 or less life, draw a card. Back to Jer.
I think the only deck that plays this is Seinfeld. I think. I don't think it's good enough to see play in any other deck. The amount of three mana hard counters you have now is just so good. Getting Sinister Sabotage that always surveils one, Dissolve that always scries one, Dissipate that always exiles a thing, Disallow that has multiple modes,
Archmage's Charm.
Archmage's Charm that is leagues ahead of this.
Beej.
It sounded like in your description that you said counter target spell, or if you have 5 or less life.
No.
Oh, no, it's both.
It's additional.
Yeah, it's Fateful Hour.
This
Yeah.
is...
Oh, not Fateful or.
Yeah.
Fateful Hour.
Hour.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Beej.
This is strictly better than Cancel, but that's not a...
Sure.
But that's not a card that he's playing.
All right.
Cancel doesn't even make it into Seinfeld.
Yikes.
All right, let's talk about Tribute Mage. 3 mana 2/2 for 2 and a blue. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for Time Vault. Shuffle your library. Ben.
This card is one of the best cards in the set.
Yep.
It's a 3 mana 2/2 that finds a Time Vault, Sword
Okay.
of the Meek, a Winter.
No, I was going to say, ignoring Time Vault, are you playing this in any deck that isn't a Time Vault
Oh,
deck?
I wish
Yep.
I could ignore Time Vault for the rest of my life.
I wanna play
It
it.
finds
You are.
Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek, it finds
G-Tay.
Defense Grid, it finds G-Tay. Like, this card is gas. This,
Okay.
Like, there are so many 2-mana artifacts that you'll find. This card's basically going to become an auto-include in any artifact-related deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It finds Arcbound Ravager, Steel Overseer,
Hovermere.
For
Cranial Plating.
Ooh. Let's
Mirror
talk about one of the other most hyped cards in the set. Let's talk about our boy Urza, Lord of High Art. Wait,
Uh-huh.
Lord High
beg your
Artificer.
pardon?
Yeah. 4 mana, 1/4 for 2 blue, legendary creature, Human Artificer. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Tap an untapped artifact you control to add blue. 5 mana, shuffle your library, then exile the top card until end of turn. You may play that card without paying its mana cost.
This card.
Ben,
I want to say
is-
something before Ben goes.
Jer.
It's his card. I know it. Your opponents are going to say the same thing you are when you have this card in play.
What's that?
Blue, 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 blue.
all right, Ben.
I guess I'll go
So I-
to my scoops then.
Oh dear, it appears as though I've lost the game. So people were asking me like, what's your favorite? What card are you most excited about? And people were like, is it Urza? And the answer is no, because I'm not excited because it's just so goddamn good. It's hard to like get super enthused.
Oh, you're just like, okay, this card's broken.
Oh yeah, it's just like this card popped up. It's like, oh my god, yeah. Oh, this is gross. This is gonna cause. This is trouble. Yeah. So like enough toughness to not get bolted. Sure, you can Caracas this. That's fine.
I'll
Means
play
I
it
get
again.
to kill you a different way. Being able to just like get summoning sickness artifacts like, say, 1,000,000 servos created from Saheeli, 1,000,000 Thopters created from Sword of the Meek Thopter Foundry, which this goes infinite with, providing a infinite mana sink in colorless to kill my opponent. This card is busted. This card is so good.
It's insane with Paradox
This
Engine.
Word.
It's just nuts.
All right, and
How?
the last blue card we're going to talk about today, Watcher for Tomorrow. 2 mana, 2/1 for 1 and a blue. Has Hideaway, so when it enters the battlefield tapped, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1, and then put the rest on the bottom of your library. And when it leaves the battlefield, put the exiled card into its owner's hand. Jer.
I don't know how I feel about this card. It entering tapped is probably pretty bad, but a creature that impulses is pretty good.
Food chain?
But it's slow impulses.
Slim Pulse.
Because if
Yeah,
you,
oh
if
yeah,
you do,
this-
if you do a
this-
food chain loop with this,
You can't loop with this, but it's just a good value card in Food Chain.
okay.
Neat.
All right.
You can allure with this.
So blue is the
good
color.
Good in Alluring, good in Food Chain.
Sure, Allurin. There, that's another one. That's what I meant more than food chain was Allurin. Sorry.
Makes more sense.
So blue is the color with the most cards here. How do we feel about this in general? Like white, we kind of skimmed over pretty quickly. There's a couple cards you're pretty excited about here.
Like some of these cards are, it almost makes up for the travesty of
What we're going to be getting to
what
later
we're
on.
going to be getting to. Like some of these cards are, This set's just got everything.
Yeah.
And blue has so much. It's so great. I love you, blue. Thank you.
Blue, blue, blue,
Blue,
blue,
blue,
blue.
blue.
All right. So I know we talked about wanting to go a little bit longer and having a longer episode, but we just realized we're an hour and 10 minutes in, and we just finished blue. So despite our earlier promise that we were going to try and do all of Wooburg today, we're going to pivot away from that, and we're going to bring you Wooburg
Jund.
Black. We're going to bring you Jund in another episode later this week. That's right. We're going to change the format just for you, so you can get part 1 in 2 parts this week and stuff like that. So let's actually quickly pivot to our closing segment, Powerful Magic. And up today we have Wheeler, who's going to tell us a story of knowing you. I'm going to go with Magical Woe. I'm going to call shot. Something bad happens to you.
No, I popped off. So it's Pride Month, so I think
Ooh.
it's only appropriate that I talk about a story that involved a deck that I have affectionately called Big Gay Electric Prince Moonstorm, which involves Ral Storm Conduit. So this
Okay.
card's important for this story. Ral Storm Conduit is a new card from War of the Spark. It's 2, a red and a blue for 4 loyalty. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Ral deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. +2 is scry 1. -2 is whenever you cast the next instant or spell, sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell, you may choose new targets. So I've been playing a deck that has some Blue Moon aspect to it, has some Storm aspect to it, and has a whole bunch of Time Walks. Time Walks are quite good with Ral.
Yeah, I
I'm
can imagine.
Against a Gruul Blitz opponent. And I kind of fight the board a bit, and I'm able to get into a position where I can slam Ral, tick it up to 6 loyalty, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm probably losing Ral here, but that's like at least I'm gaining 6 life, and I got some kind of scry. Like I feel like I'm kind of struggling.
Sure.
They go to their turn, they attack, and I'm like, okay, well, Ral's dying, but then they attacked me, and it's like, okay, and they didn't have enough to push Ral down. They were just going to deploy more threats
Okay, sure.
to set up for lethal next turn. But here's the thing. They let Ral survive.
Oops.
Which means they didn't get a next turn. Because then I proceeded to take about 14 extra turns through -2 Ral, cast Time Walk, make another Time Walk. Narsit's Reversal, my original Time Walk, which is return target spell to its owner's hand, I think instant or sorcery, and you copy that. So then that's a couple extra turns there.
4 damage.
All while pinging my opponent away, who is at 20 because I'm not doing any damage to them. Then we untap. No, we Time Walk again. With Ral's permission to copy it. And then we Flood of Recollection or Time Walk. And then we ping some more. And then this is the part where it slows down because I have to tick up Ral if I want to keep using him.
But
so
you have all these extra turns. So.
Oh, yeah, but it's okay because I scryed 1 and then I cast a capture of Jingzhao. Jingzhao? I don't want to muck the pronunciation too much. So it was a 5-mana Time Walk, so I only had about 5 more Time Walks in the queue. And then we untap, and then we Time Walked, and we Time Walk, Time Walk, Time Walk, Walk, Time Walk, Time Walk. All while shooting our opponent to death with a little bit of lightning bolts.
You're a monster.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty all right.
Now, you realize with a deck name, what was that again?
Big Gay Electric Prince Moonstorm.
You're going to have to share that list.
Oh.
I'm sure the viewers will want that list.
Absolutely.
So if you're on the YouTube, you'll find it in the description down below. Holy moly. All right, friends. Well, that is going to be part 1 of our set review. Tell us what you think. This is a little bit longer format. We really had time to sit down and really dig deeper into the cards, which I know is something that you asked for in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We are going to be releasing in this same week part 2 when we record Jund, and then expect the remainder of the set review sometime next week. Reminder that you'll be able to find a very large contingent of Loading Ready Run all under Beege's banner at Magic Fest Seattle between the dates of June 20th and 23rd. Look forward to seeing you there. There will be Highlander events. Come and fight us. Reminder that North 100 is brought to you by you with your support at the Patreon over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Thank you very much. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.